Relationships are tough. Even the strongest ties can be strained and broken altogether. How can we maintain and strengthen good relationships and successfully navigate the difficult ones? For answers, we're joined by clinical psychologist, longtime host of The Doctor Is In on EWTN Radio, author of the new book, How to Get Along with Almost Everybody. Please welcome back to the program, Dr. Ray Guarendi.
Well, Raymond, how are you?
Dr. Ray, let's start with married couples, which, let's face it, these are among the most important relationships we can have. And in your book, you state, quote, most divorces don't follow major dysfunction, abuse or alcoholism, adultery, mental disorders. Most divorces are the end point of a long-time interpersonal slide. Hurts and resentments have built upon themselves for years, end quote. Dr. Ray, how do you overcome those hurts and resentments and that interpersonal decline?
If you interpret what your spouse is doing, Raymond, as automatically hurtful, automatically critical, automatically offensive, automatically put down, you tend to accumulate this stuff. Spouses will come to me when their other partner will not come into the office for therapy. And I will say, okay, how can we make you less vulnerable to what's going on? Somebody can be nasty, Raymond. A spouse can be offensive or critical, but you don't have to absorb it. That's the key. Many people think because you act that way, I have to react that way. That's not true at all. One of the worst things I hear is the overused phrase narcissist and emotional abuse. Narcissist means basically somebody that's self-centered and difficult. When you call somebody a narcissist, and that's spousal language now, you call somebody a narcissist, what you're saying is you're beyond reach. I can't reach you. You're pathological. If you say emotional abuse, what you're saying is that nastiness, which in most cases is words, I have to absorb and feel abused, not necessarily. If Raymond, if you're going to be mean to me, I still have a lot of power to decide how much you're going to affect me. And that's what people have to understand. It isn't automatic. When you're mistreated, you don't have to be miserable.
Yeah, I was talking to a therapist not long ago, and she was saying that there's a danger when you label someone, particularly those you're closest to, a spouse, a parent, as a narcissist, but that seems to be the first card that's thrown down in a lot of therapists' offices. What's the danger of labeling someone that, in a broad way?
Because I've decided you're now pathological. I have decided that there are personality parts of you that are irretrievable, and only a skilled therapist can get through to you. I can't. I'm just a layperson. Another thing we do, Raymond, is trait language. Trait language isn't necessarily pathological language. If I say, Raymond, you're thoughtless, all of a sudden I've just broad brushed you. And you immediately get defensive because that's a nasty accusation. You're mean-spirited, Raymond. Well, you see what I've just done to my spouse? Automatically, they are not going to want to hear this. Rather than saying, why didn't you call me when you said you would? Instead of saying you're thoughtless and you're inconsiderate. We use those kind of terms all the time, and I'll tell you, they are like pot shots at a relationship.
Dr. Ray, you discussed 3 conversation killers that contribute to interpersonal disharmony, whether they're marriages or otherwise. Here's the quote. High on the list of conversation killers are bragging, complaining, and know-it-alling. How can people avoid those killers? Relationship killers.
You gotta be aware of yourself. You know, the saying is, oh, the gift the gods would give us to see ourselves as others see us. If you can't look at yourself and recognize, I'm looking for every opportunity to kind of talk up myself here, and I'm noticing that people are pulling back. That's one. I had a mother one time tell me her little daughter was 9 years old, and she died of leukemia in the hospital with her mother there. Mother said, I never realized what that did to me. I can't listen to complaining anymore. When I hear people complain, or worse, when I hear them complain about their kids, it just jabs through my heart. So whenever you're complaining, recognize the person listening to you may be hypersensitive to those kinds of complaints because they wish they had those problems. Know-it-alling. I'm superior. I'm smart. My opinion is better than yours. And I'm waiting for you to say something so I can one-up you in the conversation. Those three things, if they're done with little bits and pieces, they can irritate an interaction. If they're done chronically, they can ruin a relationship.
You share in the book, quote, a 90s sitcom wrapped its plots around the everyday interplay of three generations, grandparents, parents, and children. The grandparents' marriage was marked by the mutual mindset, you're wrong, with the twist of a sentence, a talk fest could descend into a bicker fest. I guess, Ray, that's why they didn't call it Everyone Loves Dr. Ray. What are the best ways for families to communicate effectively and with charity?
Well, Raymond, they were going to have a spinoff. It was going to be Some People Sort of Tolerate Dr. Ray. That was our title.
Good. That
If you ever
worked.
notice two spouses sitting side by side, somebody will say, yeah, we went there Thursday night. No, it wasn't. No, you're wrong. It wasn't Thursday night. It was a Wednesday. Oh, okay. It was a Wednesday. So anyway, I drove up. No, you weren't driving. I remember I said I was going to drive. It's that kind of picky bickering that not only puts people listening to it ill at ease, but it just is it's a poke at a relationship. And marriages do this a lot. You don't have to correct somebody. Let them say that I was driving. I don't have to automatically step in and say, no, remember you said you didn't want to drive. Remember that? Pay attention. A lot of relationships do this, and it dings them.
Ray, for the Italians watching, and we are both the fellow sufferers, Italians have a way. I have a way. I'll point to myself, and I won't include you in this one, Ray. My face tells 1,000 tales, and sometimes people will come and tell me things, and I'm so frustrated by it. I'll eye roll or I'll make a face that's clearly not supportive, loving, or what's the term? Empathetic. Your thoughts on the visual cues we can offer those in our circle and how that can undermine or destroy.
I came home one day, and my wife had given my daughter, my 13-year-old daughter, 2 hours worth of labor. I said, what did she do? My wife said she rolled her eyes at me. Raymond, you asked me a question, and I do this to you. I guarantee you're not going to want to air this interview. Those kinds of disdainful, I call them back looks, disdainful back looks convey a message of, you're stupid or you're foolish. You actually believe that. What is wrong with you? And we can do that. I'll make this remark. I'll give a talk for an hour. Somebody will ask a question, and I'll say to them, if I said to you at your question, yeah, right. I guarantee you, whatever I said the previous hour, you would not want to hold on to because that guy's a jerk.
You give tips on how to give and receive criticism because sometimes that's necessary. Share some of those tips with us.
You're familiar with the phrase constructive criticism?
Yes.
That can be a stealthy tag word, Raymond. Hey, Ray, I'm just going to tell you now, I'm meaning this as constructive criticism, Ray. I think you need to pronounce your words a little more succinctly. Okay, I'm just saying this for your own good, Raymond. A lot of time, constructive criticism means, let me tell you what's wrong with you. Let me tell you why you're not measuring up. Unless you got a really good relationship with somebody, you better be careful about constructive criticism, because all too often I'm saying, I don't really like the way you do it.
Yeah. And some people can absorb criticism easier than others, Ray. I mean, look, I remember, when I was an actor back in the golden age, I had a theater coach, Stella Adler, who was she was like a military leader. I mean, she was like a general, and she would send more of my peers to NYU psychiatric services than I think anybody in the university, because she was so brutal and personal when you did a scene in front of her. Now, I loved it because I took it in the spirit it was given, adjusted the performance, and gave her what she was looking for. But some people were just crushed internally. So I do think it depends. You have to gauge all of that depending on the state of the receiver. But you write something that I want to delve into a little bit. A difficult person can be self-myopic, meaning he doesn't see himself as difficult. If he did, he'd be less difficult. The longer someone has been difficult toward you, the wiser to confront less and ignore more. Dr. Ray, you see a lot of this in work environments where you have to deal with people you don't like, but you got to be there with them. You got to engage with them, or they don't like you. What are some tips for dealing with coworkers who are a challenge?
Let's go back to your mentor there in acting. Now, you knew she was that way, correct, Raymond? You knew what she was like. She was not going to change for you or anybody else, correct?
No, that's correct.
Okay. So you knew that. And part of the reason it probably didn't get to you as much as it did to your peers is because you expected it. It wasn't a matter of, I wish she would be different. I wish she would change. Why does she have to be like that? No, you knew that was her persona. And that's what I tell people. My mother-in-law's been making snarky remarks about my parenting ever since my first child, and we have 6 children. How long has she been doing this? 22 years. It still upsets you? Well, yes, she shouldn't do it. But wait, that's the way she's been. It's the way she is. It's the way she will be, to use Roy Hobbs. So, in fact, when will you get to the point where you say, what do I expect? And it doesn't impact you as hard when you expect, because you got plenty of evidence that's the way the person is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, most of these people are just jerks. We got to be honest. I mean, some people are just jerks that you encounter and have to encounter.
Expect that it's not going to bug you.
But in the case of Stella Adler, or even a person in your field that you'd go to, that's a professional whose word you respect, and you're going to them for a reason. Stella had an enormous talent and an eye for talent. So when she said something, you adjusted. It's about having the humility to know the difference between a talented person of accomplishment and somebody who's just spouting off because they might hate you or have a bias toward you, I think.
Her ability was unquestioned, Raymond. Her style stunk. Okay, so if you can separate the two, if you can say she's instructive in her criticism, not destructive, but the constructive stuff, she may have a personality that kind of likes to lord it over people. All right, that's who she is. If you recognize what Stella is like, you're much less likely to be upset by her. When you continue to demand that she be different than she is, you will upset yourself no end, because she'll give you plenty of ammo. You know the most common question I now get, Raymond, from not only folks in therapy, but everybody. Can you please tell me how to make somebody be different?
Oh, yeah. The magician question. Yeah.
Yes.
Turn them into a rabbit for me, please. I want to move on to something. In your book, you write something that I loved. In ancient Middle Eastern cultures, a slap on the cheek was a severe personal insult. It demanded a sharp response. Jesus instead instructed, if anyone strikes you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. Meaning, don't reflexively feel demeaned. Show the slapper he can't provoke you into wrath or retaliation. Every insult doesn't need to be answered. Dr. Ray, given the social media environment we and our children live in that is so toxic, those conversations online can turn into virtual street fights any minute of the day. What advice would you give our viewers about restraint in those circumstances?
Here's what Jesus was saying, I think, Raymond. The ultimate insult, you're sending back a message, you can't make me feel worthless. You can't demean me. You tried. You gave me a backhand slap across the face. You know my response? Here, do this. It wasn't pacifism. It was a nonverbal way of saying, you can't demean me because I won't let you. Same thing with social media. Raymond, you're big in the media. You probably get all kinds of stuff critiquing you and criticizing you, and some of it's awfully
Yeah.
nasty.
Yeah,
My wife
it's
sends
part of
those
the
to me,
game.
and I try to ignore them as best I can. But
Yeah.
our Lord, I think our Lord was giving a beautiful psychological lesson. Nobody has the power to demean you, and he used the worst example he could, if you
Yes.
don't let him. Here,
Yeah.
this shows you how much you will affect me.
It's great. It's a great approach, and it actually works really well. Because it takes the power away from the attacker in many ways, because they're not getting the reaction they want, which is often why they've begun the whole interplay in the first place. I'll give you the last
If I could
word.
give a characteristic to somebody, Raymond, I would say, especially Christians, I would want you to be unoffendable. We get offended so easily. Why? Well, because you shouldn't say that about me. I don't deserve that. I don't do that to you. That's not the way a good person acts. In essence,
Right.
what we're saying is, I don't deserve this, so therefore I get offended. If I recognize that anybody can say anything at any time about me, I will be less likely to be offended. If we use our Lord as an example, he committed no sin. And look what they did to him.
Right, exactly. Well, Dr. Ray, we will leave it there, and with apologies to my dear mentor, Stella Adler, but she did sit on a throne when she critiqued us, Ray, just to put it in context. How to Get Along with Almost Everybody by Dr. Ray Guarendi is available at bookstores everywhere and online, and you can go to EWTN's catalog at EWTNRC.com. Thank you, Dr. Ray.
Thanks, Raymond.